That's a really bad angle from the desk. I wonder if I can practice that. Not much better of an angle. So, anyway, BlazeLeeDragon here. And I have a response, a video response for a comment on one of my videos. And, of course, I had mentioned doing video responses to viewers. So, if you have questions, ask them and I'll give you my opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean these are necessarily 100% accurate or right, but I can at least give you my 2 cents. So, ComradeSaint commented on one of my videos and says, could you do a video on astral projection? So, astral projection. Let's talk a little bit about this and try to keep this video under 10 minutes. So, hopefully I won't run over, and I'm going to keep passing the camera around because I'm using my mobile phone. So, with that in mind, bear with me. So, what is astral projection? Let's first talk about what the astral plane is and different planes of existence. So, obviously, to the individual who practices magic, mysticism, spirituality, there are multiple planes of existence. The most common ones that most people are aware of is mind, body, and soul. So what do you mean? Well, you have the physical plane, which your body exists on. You have the spiritual plane, which your spirit exists on, and then you have the mental plane, where your mind exists. Now, these are just the 3 basic ones that we exist on and interact with every day, constantly. In my opinion, in my personal views and studies and research and personal experience. So, we also have other planes, such as the ethereal plane and the abyssal plane, commonly referred to in religious practices sometimes as heaven and hell. Then there is also what is known as the astral plane. The astral plane is also another plane of existence. So essentially what we are speaking of is we are talking about not necessarily other dimensions per se, but other sides of existence and reality. That is to believe in the fact that there is more to this world, more to this realm, more to reality than what we perceive with our eyes and our 5 senses, which is why we often describe a 6th sense, which in all actuality is probably more than just a 6th sense. A 6th sense, or everything that's lumped under that, could possibly be 12, 15, who knows. But regardless, this astral projection is under the understanding and concept that there are multiple planes of existence. Now, obviously, not everybody believes in that, so if you don't believe in that, that's fine. You can simply watch this video as a theological, theory, opinion-based type of thing that some people believe. If you do believe in that type of stuff, then this might be a little bit more serious for you, and you might be aware of it yourself. Okay, 3 minutes. So, if you have these other planes of existence, obviously, you want to be able to touch and interact with them, potentially for magical and spiritual work. Why? Multiple reasons of why we would do that, but we can get into that possibly in a later video or a little bit later in this particular one. When I had mentioned the mind, body, and soul and the 3 planes of reality that we touch with our mind, body, and soul, it's basically the one that we live in, then we talk about how to basically manifest magic and mysticism, mystical energies. Manifestation is a big thing that is talked about whenever you talk about magic of any form. You were talking about manifesting it. In martial practice, martial arts, there are different ways of using what's called chi. Okay, now that's not necessarily... that's a long story in itself. There's multiple energies and things that you can use with martial arts. However, fwajing and bringing forth your chi and explosive power and generating this. Now, some people believe it is just physical. Myself, from practice and what I've been taught, I personally believe that it is something that is being brought forth which is deeper than just the physical level. I think you have to have everything behind it. You have to have the mind and the intent behind it. You have to have the spirit and chi behind it. And you have to have the physical body and the movements behind it. So I think it's a combination of things in order to release this energy. And that is one way of manifesting it. So you are projecting other parts of your being into that. And that's essentially the idea behind astral projection. Not that you're just snapping at a technique, but you are projecting a piece of yourself into this other type of reality. Because when you talk about magic and mysticism, the whole idea of manifestation, or manifesting, bringing something into being, excuse me, allergies, as always. the idea of manifesting something is about taking something from a plane that does not exist and having it interact with another plane of existence. That's why spells can take so long, and they take a while to manifest. Or if you were doing mysticism, or like I said, martial arts, or laying on of hands, whatever the case may be, there is a transition through the realms of existence, starting with your intent. Astral projection is very similar. What you are doing is you are projecting yourself, your mind, and your awareness onto the astral plane. So it starts out with the mental plane of existence, the intent, your willpower, and that's, well, that would be getting too much into actual magical practice, but I basically just want to touch upon the fact that, once again, as I've said in many of my videos, one of the key points that I want to discuss with magic and mysticism is that all energy follows thought. So if you direct your intent there, energy will follow. There are techniques and ways of doing this. However, what you are essentially doing is you are essentially projecting your awareness onto the astral plane of existence, which we are not touching at all times, in my personal opinion or thought. Now, with that in mind, how do you go about doing that, and why would you do that? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's first talk about what's referred to as the astral vehicle. What the astral vehicle is it's essentially a body for you on the astral plane. If you have not created an astral vehicle and project yourself, you are then essentially going to be a mass of energy, just this lump. You'll still be able to sense and perceive things, but you are going to be a lump versus an actual physical being. Very good movie reference for you, The Matrix. When they connect with the Matrix, and Neo's there with the plugs and the short hair, and then all of a sudden he appears and he's in clothes and he's got a little bit longer hair, and Morpheus is talking about how everything changed, that this is his digital projection of his mental self, something along those lines. That's essentially what you're doing. That would be like his example of the astral vehicle to interact with the astral plane. It would be similar. You can build yourself a body, you can be another animal or creature, you can do different forms of shape-shifting, and I'll get into shape-shifting if anyone's interested in a later video, but essentially what I'm talking about is you're building yourself an astral vehicle, you're constructing this body basically for yourself on the astral plane in order to interact with it. So you're not just moving with thought, but you actually have the ability to manipulate things similar to how your mind would concept of manipulating things here. Why? Because we're in human bodies. Regardless of how you feel about your spirit or soul, I'm going to get so close to 10 minutes, you are still wanting to perceive that because that's how we are now. So you can project yourself onto the astral plane through different types of methods. Now, one of the other things that is referred to commonly is OBE, O-B-E, out-of-body experience. And when you're projecting the astral plane, you can go there for research, for learning, for knowledge, for casting your spells, or practicing your craft or your religion. You can also project yourself onto the mental plane as well in order to practice these as well. So basically, if you were unable to do a ritual of some form and you wanted to do one, or if you're in a spot where it's not necessarily available for you to do that, you can project yourself onto the astral plane. And the whole purpose of doing that is so that you can sit here and go through the motions and the different types of intent and the practices that you want to go and practice, but you can actually do this with the freedom to have any sort of ritual tool that you would want, or any sort of clothes that you would want to wear, or any sort of scenery that you would want to be in. People can also project themselves on the astral plane just for relaxation and meditation, for example. The point is, people have the ability to go other places, and sometimes it's fun, like me getting up and walking. No, but seriously, it's one example of why people would choose to project themselves, and there are multiple reasons for doing this. And of course, the ability to interact with this plane of existence is going to be based upon the individual. The success of being able to project yourself in the astral plane, once again, it depends on the individual, and each person will have different experiences and different things that they will perceive and feel while they're on that plane of existence. So, one last thing I want to mention, because I'm hitting 9 minutes now, is that when we go to sleep, it is believed that we have out-of-body experiences, and we do project to the astral plane subconsciously. So, dreaming sometimes is the astral plane. The way that I would say that you are knowing that you're on the astral plane versus dreaming is whether or not it's a lucid dream. And this is, I don't remember where I read this, but I personally believe it from self-experience as well, is being aware when you're dreaming is being on the astral plane. You are projecting, you're aware, you're interacting with. So if you've ever had a lucid dream that you remember, that would be an example, in my personal opinion and experience from doing so, you being on the astral plane. versus dreaming where you're just kind of not really fully aware and it just kind of happens and you remember these glimpses and memories. Sometimes you don't remember at all, which is perfectly fine. And sometimes you won't necessarily remember your experience of being on the astral plane. So, that is essentially the astral projection video that I'm doing in response. I hope that you enjoy this. If you had any further questions on it, feel free to continue to ask or post things below. So I've hit 10 minutes. This is BlazeLeeDragon. As always, give me thumbs up if you like and support my videos. You can find my public page on BlazeLeeDragon on Facebook, so you can like that too and follow. I post my videos on there. So yay, enjoy and fruitful journeys in your personal spiritual path.